My name is Chris Hilken. I'm from San Diego, California. I have 5 kids, and part of my story is last year I lost my wife to suicide. And I tell that full story in its completion. I was at Cornerstone the week after Easter and got to share that story with all of you guys there. But I wanted to share a little bit of that as you guys are entering into this series and into this sacred space of having these conversations. For us, it was onset by a medical diagnosis that ended up leading to sleeplessness. That sleeplessness led to deep trauma, and then that trauma just kind of rewired her brain on a fundamental level. And then it was trying to get help and trying to get therapy with someone who kind of at their core had mentally changed and things had just been altered. And you find yourself in a situation when you're going through it or a loved one's going through it where there's no eject button and there's no ripcord and there's not a parachute where you can get out of that, and you're just kind of forced to sit front row to watch someone's descent into mental illness, or for even listening to my wife and hear her feeling like she's grasping at straws and doesn't know which way's up in those different circumstances. And so that diagnosis, which led to trauma, that trauma led to psychosis, that psychosis led to a separation of understanding who she was at her core, which then led to suicidal ideation and ultimately inside of a mental health facility taking her life. And it's just it's the most shocking and life-altering, upsetting thing. You play that woulda, shoulda, coulda game over and over again. And so suicide is uniquely, I think, detrimental to groups of people because it leaves people sitting there wondering, what if, or how could I? And I think particularly in the church, there's such a stigma against mental health and anxiety and depression and psychosis and multiple personalities and schizophrenia, which is what my wife struggled with at the end, that you almost find yourself being wary of who you're talking to, because you might find someone who wants to give you a quick spiritual platitude or a quick spiritual pill, and what they end up doing is that they end up in some ways implicating that if Paige, in my case, my wife's name, if Paige would just do something differently, this would all be fixed. This help for it and solutions for mental health is this beautiful, intrinsic, haunting dance of understanding and prayer and vulnerability and grace for people. And so I couldn't be more proud of being associated, even from afar, with Cornerstone, who's taking this on. When we sit in moments like this, or when we sit in a congregation, or we sit in one of the Cornerstone campuses and we hear these conversations, we have the deep privilege of being mindful, calculated, sober, and those are all tools and privileges that are not adept to the person that's in the middle of this. Leaning in and listening and paying attention and hearing and then believing what people are saying is paramount to starting to understand how we as a church are going to respond to the mental health crisis. And I think so often we're quick to have the response or quick to have the answer. When with mental health, I think if you want to be really helpful in the mental health community, be good at asking questions. And those have been the most helpful people in my grief and in our suffering and in Paige's experience as she was walking through this is don't walk in ready to give a solution before you're ready to ask a good question. And good question askers were always the people who helped the most. And those with the carte blanche, broad paintbrush, this helped this person that I know in Canada, so it should help you too. This is what helped over here, so this is what's going to work for you too. And with the diversity that God made us with in His glory, our brains are diversified and our thoughts are diversified and our trauma is diversified and the impact it has on our brain is diversified. So some be-all and end-all solution to all mental health is also not the solution. So what do? You listen. As a church, I think what you guys are doing is awesome. And I think be good question askers and be good listeners. And I think that's kind of our story. On the last journal entry that she has of her life, it is a prayer journal, and it is a woman of deep faith and deep conviction and deep love of Jesus. And the whole page just says, "Deliver me." And God's answer was no.
the full reading of the Bible and its completion and the meta-narrative of redemption would show with complete certainty that the power of Jesus is greater than even our deepest moments of hopelessness. And Jesus said, I didn't come for the healthy, but for the sick. And for someone who's in mental illness, it would just be so silly to say, I didn't come for the healthy, I came for the sick, but not that kind of sick. What? Yeah, I came for the healthy, I didn't come for the healthy, I came for the sick. There's no conditional phrase there. There's no parentheses. There's no if and conjunctive phrases. It's just case in point. I came for sick people. And for the person that's struggling through these things, it's to realize that you don't do anything alone. The enemy loves the lie that that no one can understand you and that no one is with you. When we pray to God about what we're going through or even our mental struggles, we don't have a Jesus that goes like, I wonder what that's like. It's said on the cross that all of our sin and all of our pain and all of our shame and all of our past is heaped onto Jesus. He's forsaken by the Father. And so we certainly have a Jesus who's able to go, I know, and I'm with you. I know, and I'm with you. And those are the deepest lies, I think, of the enemy. No one gets it. There is no hope, and you are alone. And those are the promises of Jesus. I do know exactly what you're going through. There is hope, and I am always with you.